Welcome back to another episode of Talking Water with me, David Eason, as we talk all about what's going on in the water industry with Graham Mann from switchwatersupplier.com, who joins me in the studio once more.
Hi.
Hello, Graham. Good to have you along once more. And in this episode, we're going to talk about some of the news that's making the news in the water industry, and actually things that are coming up sort of on the doorstep, Graham. When you're out and about, when you're visiting companies who are getting in touch with you to switch their water supply or do a water audit. And I believe there is one particular company up in the northeast of England who have hit upon, what seems to be, what could be, a very big story.
Yes, we were contacted a couple of months ago by a company that wanted to build a new factory, a production building construction plant in the northeast, and the project involved in a new water connection to Anglian Water supply, and the requirement was 60 to 80 cubic meters a day for production. So we got the specification, and we put the specification through to Anglian Water, and to my horror, the other day, I received notification that they were unable to supply the 60 or 80 cubic meters a day that the company needed for production. So
the water's not there?
I'll just read this out. So Anglian Water cannot reserve capacity, and therefore you're recommended to formally apply for a connection at your earliest convenience. Please note that available capacity in our network can be reduced at any time, basically due to increased requirements from existing businesses and houses. So basically what they're saying is that, proceed with haste for your new connection, because the 20 cubic meters that we've offered you as a daily consumption could be reduced imminently unless you get on with the new connection fairly rapidly.
So let's get this done. So it's a company who wants 60 cubic meters a day.
Yeah.
They're being offered
20.
And that might go down if they ask. Not even the next year or so. That might be, if they ask next week, it might be less than that.
Yes, it's not guaranteed.
So where's the water coming from to do what they need to do?
Well, this is very serious. This is a very serious situation as far as I'm concerned. I've never come across it before in 30 years of being in the water industry. But so this company have invested many millions of pounds into this manufacturing and process plant, and they can't have the water that they need for production, not entirely. So I spoke to the client, and they said, well, we'll just have to work with it. And I pointed out to them that even the 20 cubic meters a day isn't guaranteed. So if the situation changes where there are further shortages within the network, or they have to be reduced still further, then you could be looking at 15 or even 10 cubic meters per day. I'd like to point out also is that going back a month or two, you could get 50 to 80 cubic meters a day, no problem, and a few months down the line we're down to 20. This could be possibly 10, or even a horrifying story, could be 5 or less.
So there's a couple of things here. One is that you've got a manufacturing company who want to get started, want to build, and it would seem to be not kind of the highest priority things. I know obviously the water goes into what's making what they're making, but you assume it's there. So you build the factory, employ people in the local area.
Yeah.
And you'd think that the water that is there should be there.
Well, that's what you would think. I've never ever come across it before, but the Anglian Water get majority, if not all, their water from deep boreholes, so the natural aquifers. And it's the Environment Agency that look after the environment and they look after the licenses and the abstraction. And it will be the Environment Agency that's basically said to them, you need to cut back on your abstraction because we're having, the aquifers are not replenishing and demand is exceeding supply. And there are stringent rules and regulations with regards to abstraction from these deep wells. Anglian Water actually have a statutory requirement to give the water to residents before businesses. So, what it's coming to, I think, is that if there are any developers out there that are looking to to build any manufacturing or process plants within potentially the Anglian Water region, they need to assure themselves that the water that they need for production is in fact available before they make the investment in buying the land and starting construction. And this has serious ramifications for business. I am wondering actually whether or not we're going to see restrictions tightening up for businesses that use a lot of water in the Anglian Water region, and they may not be able to take the amount of water they need to continue their business or continue their business efficiently. So potentially we could be seeing drastic cuts in production in the manufacturing sector.
And you've got a town here, I think we've named it, it's in Hartlepool, isn't it, in the northeast, which is a bit of an odd situation. Anglian Water cover Hartlepool, but they own the Hartlepool Water Company, and that's how that's worked out. So they're in the Northumbria region, but the town itself is kind of on its own. So actually for a town which has suffered a lot in recent years in terms of deprivation, and they want to regenerate, and companies need to start up. I used to live up nearby Hartlepool, actually, so I know the area. It's an area that needs businesses to open. And if businesses are being if they're unable to even access water to start up, could Hartlepool run out of water?
Well, begs the question. I mean, I'll be following up this story and watching with great interest. I've been pulling oodles of information from Anglian Water's website with regards to their studies and their modelling for water availability. But it is quite scary. I can't understand why we're stuck with Anglian Water in this situation. Other water companies, yes, do have restrictions due to severe drought, but we're talking here about a situation where we've had massive rainfall, and now we've got this situation. I'm surprised this story hasn't broken before now for businesses, because it is quite serious.
Yeah, and for the town itself, I mean, they're competing with other towns that are trying to regenerate an industry in the area. Teesside has suffered a lot, but there's not much really that could stop anyone running Hartlepool or the businesses in the town from just upping sticks and almost just going 10 miles down the coast and working with Northumbria Water, or go working in Middlesbrough, or go and work in Sunderland.
Begs the question, if there's restrictions tightened still further for companies that are reliant on water for their manufacturing process, they may well be considering moving out of the region, which would be devastating for the immediate economy. But perhaps that's what it needs. So now I said to the customer that we're going to have to start looking for our own water potentially. So we'll be carrying out hydrological surveys in the immediate vicinity to see if we can abstract our own water, because we don't necessarily need potable water for production. And it might well be a situation where the water is available from an aquifer, and we may have to drill our own borehole supply. I don't know. There could be severe restrictions in supply, but at the end of the day, I think we can take something in a region of about 20 cubic meters a day without having to apply for a license. So that would give us a further 20 cubic meters if the water was available. Other than that, and this is quite astonishing. So the customer said, "Well, what we'll have to do is we'll have to tanker the water in." I mean,
so every day, 20 cubic meters of water would be tankered, or to store it on site somehow.
Yeah, well, they need 60 for production. Wow. According to their numbers, so they have to tanker in an extra 40 cubic meters from somewhere, which is going to be quite costly. And the average tanker, I think, is around about 30 odd cubic meters. So they'll probably need 2 tankers a day, tankering in water, and it will go straight into their storage, and they'll start using that. But that's going to affect their product cost, of course. So.
Yeah, of course, if you're thinking being carbon neutral, you're going to be driving tankers to a site every single day.
Well, here's one food for thought here. So wouldn't it be ironic if the tanker company that supplied the water actually got it from Anglian Water's infrastructure?
I mean, it could happen, and it's kind of a ludicrous enough story when you put it all together that you could probably see it actually working out.
A little birdie's told me that's what's going to happen. So that's absolutely incredible. Anyway, so that's that sort of situation. So
but as a company, a Switchwater supplier, working with them or H2O, working with that company, you've never come across this before, but at least they have someone in yourself working on their behalf to try and make this work in some way for the future.
We've got to find a way out, short term, medium, and long term, and it's quite serious. So we'll be working on an alternative water supply. And see if we can pull in alternative water. Well, there was a suggestion from Anglian Water, which, fair news. We've got further consultation with them with regards to the options that we got open. But one of the options is that we take in treated sewage from Anglian Water
and use that to make whatever they're making.
Use that for production, yeah. Which is, fair enough. We're not using potable water. It's a fantastic idea. Whether or not that is firmly on the ground, firmly on the table, is further discussion. I hope it is, and that could be good from a sustainability point of view, because they treat the effluent and then discharge to a watercourse or the environment. And if we can use that, I suspect the cost is going to be considerably more than what you would pay potable water standard, because if there was any pipework and pumping to be installed on the factory site, then I suggest that they're going to be asking for a contribution to the cost of the infrastructure to put that into place for this particular customer.
And no one's got the money to put a desalination plant in Hartlepool Marina just yet. And that's not quite going to work. But that might well be the future. I suppose the question there is this country about to run out of water one way or another? Is industry going to be affected by the fact that companies are not allowing them to take as much water as they once would have been able to? We'll ask questions and answer questions like that in another episode of Talking Water coming very soon. From myself and Graham, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.